Demand for social housing, it has skyrocketed by 72% in the past 2 years. There just isn't enough of it, hence the emergency housing costs. The housing shortage in Auckland has also become worse, with the country's largest city now short of 45,000 homes. The figures are contained in briefings to the incoming government. They paint a picture of a sector that is struggling with the lack of supply, increase in population and pressures in the private rental market. Our political reporter May Heron has more.
The Housing Minister, Phil Twyford, says the previous government was in full-scale denial.
We've inherited a mess.
And he says there's no quick fix.
This is a social and economic disaster for the country. It is quite complex, there's a lot of layers to it, and it's going to require bold reform on a number of fronts sustained over a number of years.
In a briefing to the Social Development Minister, the ministry lists pressures in the private rental market, population growth and decline in home ownership as key factors to a sharp increase of demand for social housing. It's jumped 27% in the last year, and looking back to the past 2 years, it's increased by 72%. Phil Twyford says the situation is worrying.
There's a massive level of unmet demand that we see in the fact that the government's been spending $100,000 a day on motels. The huge demand for emergency and transitional housing, and the blowout in the State House waiting list.
However, the previous Social Development Minister, Paula Bennett, says that waiting list blowout is because her government made it easier to get on the register by shifting it from Housing New Zealand.
I'd always been very, very concerned about what before then I used to refer to as the hidden wait list. So people that either weren't on it because they didn't feel comfortable going to HNZ, or they just couldn't get on the list, and so we loosened that up on purpose so that we had a true account.
According to the briefings, Auckland's housing shortage has steadily become worse over the past 9 years, and the city is now short by 45,000 homes. In the past year, only around half the number of homes needed annually have been built. The previous Housing Minister, Nick Smith, insists his government had been building houses as fast as it could.
I think you've got a new government that is trying to make it look as bad as possible, to try and be an apologist for the fact that they will not meet the sort of growth rates that National was able to achieve.
Other alarming statistics in the briefings include the high number of Māori, who are well overrepresented in social housing. Māori make up 36% of tenants and 43% of the housing register. The briefing also said high accommodation costs led to a significant increase in the number of hardship grants. It said around 130,000 children lived in households that reported a major problem with heating the home and keeping it warm in winter. From Parliament for Checkpoint, May Heron.